All-time Seton Hall team, and you left that guy off? Let's vibe. What's up, Pirate Nations? You're tuned into Pirate Vibes, the show that bleeds blue and white. Where Seton Hall basketball is more than a team, it's a vibe, it's a culture, it's a brotherhood. You know how we do here on the Big East Energy Network. And today we're going full fantasy draft. If you could build the greatest Seton Hall team ever, all the eras, all the players at the peak, who's on that squad? It's dead week in actual college basketball news, so I figured, you know what, let's try to do a fun topic where people can tell me where I'm wrong all the time. I've got 5 starters, bench players, and a head coach. I think we know where the head coach is probably going. And then I'm going to include some snubs that some of you probably think deserve to be on the team, but it's tough. It's tough to make all those decisions. So we're going to go from there. But here's a twist. I'm going to add their legacy game, the game where they became the Pirate legend. So that had some weight to the topic. That's the one that stamped their legacy. And this is how I made the lineup. So let's run it. And as always, hit me up on Pirate Vibes 89, Instagram, Twitter. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me your GOAT lineup. Who did I disrespect? Who are you riding in with battle more than the guys that I chose? All right, let's go. Starting 5. Point guard. Probably the most controversial topic for all of us because we all have favorites. One thing that we've always had at Seton Hall is an undersized point guard that kind of can do a little bit of everything. I'm going to Andre Barrett from 2000 to 2004. Let's start at point guard because he's the maestro. Andre Barrett is the maestro, a Bronx legend. He was the pulse of Seton Hall for 4 years. He was so fast. He was fearless. He made everyone around him better. My personal opinion, Andre Barrett's a no-brainer. But I can hear some arguments. I know there's going to be arguments on this position. The best game ever that he ever had was that tournament game against Arizona. He had 20 points, 6 assists, 3 steals in the first round in the NCAA. It was a chess match. He controlled the tempo. He made clutch baskets when it mattered, and he outdueled a loaded Wildcat squad. He was a classic Big East guard with the swagger and smarts. And I honestly think Andre Barrett is the most underrated guard in Big East history. I think a lot of Seton Hall fans would agree with me that he is so underrated and so slept on when it comes to Big East history. And, you know, the Big East has a long history, especially since since the beginning of the league, of guards and solid guards, great guards, right? It's the bigs and the guards that have always been defined this league. And Andre Barrett, I think, is the most underrated guard. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm right. I'm guessing I'm going to get a lot of rights on this one. All right, shooting guard, we're going with Miles Powell, obviously, from 2016 to 2020. Miles freaking Powell. The guy carried us in, night in, night out. When he got hot, it was curtains, bro. It was absolute curtains. His game against Michigan State, if you remember that, in November, he had 37 points, 6 threes he hit, and he had that bum ankle. He was hobbled. He missed some time, still dropped 37 on a top 5 team. The entire building was electric, and honestly, that's what greatness looked like. And that's the reason why he got the shooting guard spot. Some people are going to be like, I don't know, Miles Powell. But I kind of cheated here. I put Terry DeHare at the small forward. We're going to go with small backcourt. DeHare, 89 to 93. This is the reason why I'm a Seton Hall fan. Growing up in Connecticut, I'm a Seton Hall fan because of Scary Terry, right? His Big East final against Syracuse is the day I was not even 10 years old. And I can still remember them beating it up on Syracuse. He had 21 points. He was the MVP of the game. He was smoothest jumper. All-time leading scorer, obviously, but he wasn't just buckets. He was a winner. The entire time he was there, Seton Hall was winning, and he was very vital for every single team. That 93 Big East tournament run was magical, and it cemented Scary Terry into the starting lineup for me personally, and I'm guessing a lot of Seton Hall fans are riding with Scary Terry. The controversial part is, do you put him at a guard spot? I put him at small forward. I'm going with 2 small wings, whatever. Now we move on to the power forward, and if you watched my episode last week, you probably know where I'm going here. Mark Bryant. Mark Bryant was a beast, right? He was the Big East bruiser mentality from the 80s. He set the tone before Seton Hall ascended with what's going to be my coach, PJ. Mark Bryant was that guy, right? Night in, night out, going against some of the biggest guys, the toughest battles throughout his Big East career. The night against St. John's, he had 32 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks in a January game in 1987. He punished St. John's that night. I watched some of the film. I went through YouTube. I was only 4 years old, so I don't remember this game, but he crushed Louis Carnesecca's team, right? He set the tone that Seton Hall was not going to be pushed around anymore. And that was before the 89 finals. So games like that cemented his legacy, because that's where Seton Hall became no longer the pushover, no longer, the Thursday night game, the 8-9 matchup in the Big East tournament. Center, Dalembert. I'm going Samuel Dalembert. 99 and 01. His best game was against St. John's. This seems to be a theme here. For our bigs, 15 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 blocks. I said that correctly, 11 blocks. He had a triple-double in a Big East game with blocks, points, and rebounds. His shot blocking sometimes felt like he was cheating. He was absolutely cheating. He did it in the NBA, and anyone that followed the NBA, you know that man protected the rim so well. Big Sam was definitely a weapon. Only was there for a couple of years. Nobody dared to come to the paint when Big Sam was patrolling the paint. And if I'm building this team to win a championship, he doesn't demand the ball, right? There's only one ball. There's 5 guys on the court. But if you have a guy that's a brick wall that can jump out of the gym and play solid defense, you need that at your center spot or your power forward spot. And with Bryan giving you the bruiser type and Dalembert giving you the swatting type, seems like a perfect match. So my starting 5, to review real quick, is Andre Barrett, point guard, Powell, our shooting guard, Scary Terry at small forward, Mark Bryant, the legend, and then Big Sam in the middle. I don't think there's many controversial picks there, obviously, but I can hear an argument on a couple. I think the one guy that should definitely be in the lineup is Andre Barrett, and I would say Terry DeHare and Mark Bryant. If you start with those 3, I'll listen to the rest. If you want to move DeHare to the shooting guard and take a small forward, I'll listen to it. But you need to have Andre Barrett and Terry DeHare and Mark Bryant in your lineup if you're talking Seton Hall basketball. And when we come back, this is where it gets controversial. This is absolutely where it gets controversial. Who makes the bench? So I only have 6 more spots. Who makes the bench in the all-time Seton Hall GOAT lineup? When we come back. All right, Pirate fans, quick timeout. Let's talk flavor. All right. Because if your kitchen has been playing iso ball lately, bland, predictable, no heat, it's time to call in the spark off the bench. I'm talking about Asabasa Spice. This is not your average, salt and pepper shaker, grinder, McCormick. Sorry. This isn't your run-of-the-mill seasoning. Asabasa brings the kind of heat that pressures for full court. I'm talking bold, vibrant flavors, handcrafted for real ones who don't want to play around with flavor. You throw this on chicken, game over. Wings, Elite 8. Grilled veggies, rice bowls, soups, even popcorn, certified bucket, like Miles Powell. It's a Powell step back of spices. Smooth, surprising, and straight unstoppable. And here's the best part. Asabasa Spice It's all natural. No MSG, no fillers, no weird chemicals you can't pronounce. The toughest thing on the label to pronounce is Asabasa Spice. Just pure, honest flavor that pops like the rock on a Saturday night. So whether you're cooking a pregame meal, you're feeding the crew for a big Pirates watch party, or you just need go-to spice in your starting lineup, get yourself some Asabasa. Go to asabasaspice.com/BEE and use the code BIGFlavor15 for 15% off your first order. That's ASABASASPICE.com and use the code BIGFlavor15. Asabasa Spice. Bring the heat, bring the flavor, and stay spicy. Seton Hall. Welcome back to Pirate Vibes. We're talking GOAT lineups today. I already did the starting five. I'm going to go with the head coach because I think it's the most non-controversial aspect for the rest of the show. You know, you got to save your controversy for the end of the show when your podcast keeps people locked in, right? PJ is obviously the choice. He was the head coach from 82 to 94. He built Seton Hall from a nice Northeast Catholic school program to a national contender, Final Four. He was almost in the national championship, obviously, real close to winning it. He's the architect of Pirate mentality. You put PJ with this squad and give him 4 years, they're probably winning multiple national championships. So watch out, Dan Hurley. We're coming for you. But PJ brought in that, and I know I use this word a lot, but the vibe, right? The mentality, the toughness, the defense, the get after it. And when you close your eyes and you think Seton Hall basketball, you think toughness, and you think probably an undersized point guard, and then probably bigs that just want to fight for every single rebound. That all came from PJ, right? Defense, figuring it out on offense, toughness. That's PJ Carlesimo. So that was a no-brainer. I think you might hear a conversation from the younger people about Kevin Willard, and that's just longevity, in my opinion, the way he left. And then he had a good run, and he proved that you can build a program here at Seton Hall, not named PJ Carlesimo. You can build a long-term program, and hopefully Shaw's figuring that out. But we'll talk. It's a dead week, so we're not going to talk real college. We're not going to talk current day college basketball. We're going to go back to the fantasy draft because we're living our dreams in the dead week. All right, bench players. This is where it gets controversial because I think you have to leave off someone. You only have 11. Seton Hall's had a lot of good players, and I think you have to leave some off. So I'm going to start with Isaiah Whitehead, 2014 to 2016. His best game was against Villanova in the Big East final. 26 points, game-winning layup. This dude had ice in his veins every time he had a big game. He dropped 26 on Nova, the number 3 team in the country at the current time, and hit a game winner with 18 seconds left. This was the moment he owned it. I think he cemented himself as a all-time player for the Pirates in this performance. Isaiah Whitehead is one of them. Shaw is a lot of Seton Hall fans' favorite player of all time that are roughly my age. I'm early 40s because it wasn't Scary Terry who was when we were 10, 11, 12 years old, right? This was our coming of age. Shaw, obviously, McDonald's All-American in the same class with Kobe and all those legends in '96, and he was the MVP, right? Shaw just had a swag to him, and he still does. And he still does it his way, and he's trying to cement his mentality onto this program as the head coach. But it's not about him being a head coach. And the reason why he's on this lineup, he's not replacing PJ Carlesimo anytime soon. So we got to talk about his performance from '96 to 2000. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He was Seton Hall Pirate through and through. You want clutch? He was that guy. NCAA first round back in 2000. He had 27 points, 9 assists. On one good ankle, he struggled towards the end. He never got healthy again. That's the reason why he didn't end up in the NBA. 5'10", if we're lucky. He carried the Pirates through the OT into the Sweet 16, and it was against Oregon. Shaw is that guy that we all loved. We all loved him. You don't hear, and when he got hired here as the head coach, you didn't hear a bad thing like, "Oh, Shaw's coming." No, that's bringing back that Seton Hall mentality, that Seton Hall vibe. And Shaheen played with it for his entire career, and he went through two coaches, right? He was with Blaney, and then he went to Amaker. And if you listen to his interviews and everything, he almost went to Duke, right? Coming out of Patrick School, he almost went to Duke, and he didn't go to Duke because of Tommy Amaker. And then he becomes the head coach here at Seton Hall, and he takes a step back, but he figures it out. He matures and shod that grit, and he deserves to be on this team. And some would say he would be in the starting five. So this is a guaranteed lock. This is not one of those controversial ones end of the roster of your fantasy draft. Shaw is definitely on there. Then Torres Karnisovas. I watched him as a kid. He was a shooter, man. Tony Kukoc-ish, right? If you grew up in the 90s. He was a stretch four before it was a thing, right? He was that guy that's going to hit that. He was so smooth. The Lithuanian legend, right? He in that game against Notre Dame, as I listed out, in January, he had 30 points, 5 threes, and that was your four. And when you had a shooter like that can light up the floor, made everything else simpler for everyone else on the floor, including Scary Terry. And Karnisovas is definitely on this roster if I had the choice. I think these next couple are guys that, I can hear an argument for maybe not being on the roster, but Karnisovas, you add that shooting. We're still looking for that shooting, right? We talked about in a few episodes here that Seton Hall is missing that shooting. I wish we had Karnisovas shooting right now. Next guy, Jerry Walker. I think this is one that's kind of locked in. He was a warrior. He was a glue guy, and if you need depth on that front line behind Mark Bryan and Sam Dalembert, you have to get Jerry Walker, right? That game in '92 against Georgetown, he had 15 rebounds, 18 points, and 3 steals, and he was going against Mutombo and Zoe, 2 NBA Hall of Famers. He was physical, every single aspect. Every championship team needs a guy like Jerry Walker. And I can't say enough good things about Jerry Walker. Then the last two are probably where we will have the most argument. We're going to go Angel Delgado, rebounding machine, right? Another big. I love rebounding machine. You grow up a Seton Hall fan. You want a tough small guard, and you want a rebounder. And Delgado is that guy. He had 26 and 20 against Georgetown. It's crazy. Our bigs have good games against St. John's and Georgetown only. But he had 26-20 against Georgetown. Like it was nothing. It was so simple, and he was dominating offensive, defensive. It didn't matter what kind of rebound. When that loose ball was there, Delgado was on top of it. Delgado should have had a longer career in the NBA. That's my personal opinion. But definitely a guy that needs to be on this roster. The last guy is, I never saw him play. I don't think many of our audience has seen him play. I know there'll be one guy that will be on here and be like, Workman did his thing. But Nick Workman, from 61 to 64. My mom was born in 61, so that kind of gives you an idea how old this player is. He had 42 and 15 in a game against Moelenberg. I know Moelenberg is nothing, but this was before the Big East, so Seton Hall played, other schools in the area. Workman was an OG bucket, right? He led the nation in scoring, which is crazy for a Seton Hall guy. With no three-point line, there was no shot clock, but he still scored 40 points every single night. Like I said, he led the NCAA in scoring. One of his years in college, he basically was Wilt Chamberlain in a Seton Hall jersey, and it's kind of cool to see that Seton Hall can get guys like that. And Nick Workman, right? So there you have it. There's my bench: Delgado, Workman, Jerry Walker, Karnisovas, Holloway, and Isaiah Whitehead. Me personally, the most controversial ones are probably Whitehead, Workman, and Delgado, right? I think Walker, Karnisovas, and Shaw. Shaw definitely has to be on there. I think Shaw is the lock, but leave your comment. Tell me where I'm wrong on that one. All right, now quickly we'll go through the snubs. I'm going to give you ideas of how I can be wrong. Anthony Avent, right? 91 All-American, 17 and 11 his senior year. Pretty solid player. Ty Shine, huge shots in the 2000 NCAA tournament. One of the guys that you got to mention, especially if you want a shooter on the bench, right? Desi Rodriguez, he was a mismatch forward. He averaged 17 points a game. Darius Lane, another shooter, right? Those are my guys. Let me know who else you would consider to be on the lineup. Which snub hurt the most, right? Who is your 12th man? Who's the one that sneaks onto the plane if you're going for a national title game? So that's the GOAT team for that. That's my personal GOAT team. Legends from every era, right? Yeah, I took Workman, and I took Powell, who's modern day, and you've got to have PJ calling a shot. I think that's the least controversial pick out of all of them. So now I'm throwing the mic to you. Who's in your top five? Who's getting cut? Who's sitting the bench? Who's side-eyeing the coach? Hit me up on X, Pirates Vibes 89. Hit me up on Instagram, Pirates Vibe 89. I'm trying to build out our audience a little bit. I like doing a little graphics, little graphic work. Drop a YouTube comment below, or better yet, send in a voicemail, right? Send me a voice message so I can play it on air of how I'm wrong. Send me a voice message through either Twitter or Instagram. Send me something, audio, so I can put this on there, and maybe I'll feature you. Let's get your voices on the air. This has been Pirate Vibe, where Seton Hall basketball is tradition, fire, and just a vibe. Till next time, stay loud, stay true, stay blue, and vibe on.
Ahoy there!